Hey, gang. Friday. Time for Friday fights. Oh, almost missed hitting some of the most important buttons. That's kind of cool. Bad. Not cool. There we go. There's that. Oh, I see some people waiting in the video chat for what is that? That's Discord. Hey, everybody. We're getting caught up here. Yeah, it's time for a producer. Just in case anybody's looking for a free job. That made no sense. All right, that's all started. Let's get started. It's Friday. It is a little after 11 here in the East Coast. Matt will be joining shortly. We've got Qatar and Air Force Fun, the Mexican Cartel. Now get this. What is the biggest thing in this current administration? Anybody? Anybody? Bueller? It was, I think, immigration, right? And we're doing this thing where we're keeping out all the bad guys and, you know, keeping out all the bad guys. Well, apparently, and I know my camera's not on me yet, apparently, that's not the important thing. Because when we can support a cartel and their family members, isn't that so much better? That's right. The Trump administration has not only arranged for, but welcomed family members of the Mexican cartel. And yet they turn around and wonder why former FBI Director James Comey says 286-47. The Supreme Court heard arguments yesterday morning about birthright citizenship and injunctions nationwide. Can a district court do that? The House came up with a budget deal, and it's big and beautiful. Or is it? And then Putin, of all things, decided he's going to snub peace. And Zelensky and Trump. Pretty much the world. Time for Friday fights. I think I heard a ding. I think maybe Matt's here. Let's have a look. Yeah, there we go. What's up, man? I'm not hearing you.
What's up, dude?
There you go. How's everything?
Oh,
that looks like a swank hotel. Where are you at?
I'm in a swink hotel, sir. I that's all I do is I swink.
Yeah, you swanking away.
I swink. I'm a serial swinker.
Yeah. I used to have that capability. Then I turned 50.
Yeah. I really hope we're talking about hotels. Yeah, man, I heard your intro. We have some interesting things to talk about today, don't we?
Yeah. Where do you want to start? I mean, they're all kind of big.
You're the host, my friend. Just tee me up, gear me up, and I'm ready to be unleashed onto the world of Yurg's Radio.
For as much as it is still a big deal, I think it's also the oldest issue on the list as far as newsworthiness.
Mm-hmm.
Do we have a new Air Force One? Did somebody talk some sense into him? What's happening with that?
Well, actually, here I think it's actually more interesting than we're giving it credit for. Remember, an order from the presidency was signed over a decade ago, by Barack Obama to get Air Force One. This is to Boeing. Boeing, we know, is a very incapable company as of right now that is more worried on suckling on the government teat to pay off their shareholders and get rich than actually make deliverables for anybody, including the government and for the private sector. They absolutely
And
suck.
wait a minute, hold on. Don't forget. And also, they concentrate on whacking whistleblowers.
Oh, right, and they like to kill people that say, "Hey, you're probably not doing things well, even though you're making billions off of the government money." And so
Yeah,
These Air Force One jets, these new ones, have, and remember, the president is, and we're not just talking about Trump. We're talking about Biden, Obama, Trump. They've been flying around in 30-year-old jets. Bush,
right.
Bush one, Clinton. I mean, actually, not Bush one, but Clinton. And
No,
so,
actually, well, it was brand new with Bush Senior. The
oh, okay.
747. He was the first one in the 747.
Okay. So I stand corrected. Okay, so first one said, so these jets aren't here, and to be perfectly honest with you, I think that Trump, what he should do, and I understand his frustration, he should just bring the hammer down on Boeing really bad. Now, so I think that that's a big conversation, is that we're using this, in air quote, American company that obviously just can't perform anymore.
Right.
Now, if you want to talk about Qatar and the gift of the $400 million, I almost feel like, it's a I feel like they're trolling the president. Like, everybody's like, "Oh, it's corruption," and he's like, "I want it." I think they looked at the president and go, "Man, you got a sorry ass plane. We'll hook you up, brother. Like, because I know you guys can't afford it. You because you poor over there. We got the." I think they're kind of like trolling us. But obviously, this is, if it's accepted, then I personally think that it's unethical that America should be doing that. It's just not right. I don't know if it's corruption per se, but it's something that America shouldn't let happen.
Well, okay. Quick tangent. Did you see the video? And I just saw this morning. I don't like just finding videos like this and throwing it up on the show because God knows it could be AI.
I got to walk around and get a hat. Excuse me. So I'm listening.
Good. Okay. Secretary of Health and Human Services, Robert Kennedy Jr., is standing at a podium with the president right aside of him when he says how the president accepted from drug companies privately $100 million. And literally in the same breath and in the very next sentence says that the president can't be bought. Please, I am begging for anyone to, even as the song by Johnny Lang says, lie to me and tell me that clip is AI. Do you know the clip I'm talking about? It's brand new, less than
No,
24
but I
hours.
mean, I understand the context, and I understand, like, the conflicts of interest that the president has in many different sectors. So I mean, it's not surprising to me.
But I mean, this is a cabinet member throwing the president under the bus right in front of him and then turning around and telling the world it's okay.
Okay. I mean, the American people need to. I mean, we'll see that and make their decision. I'm not okay. There's so much to get outraged about. I just don't have outrage to that one. It's I don't
Yeah, good
care.
point. Good point.
I don't
I
really
think I
care.
found it already.
And there's actually big things that we need to accomplish that isn't being accomplished. So, and we're going to talk
Oh
about a
my
lot of that
God.
stuff.
Yeah.
We can talk about a lot of that stuff that I think are way more important than I mean, look, the conflicts of interest are a thing, and I think they need to be addressed. That's honestly Congress to get their head out of their ass to actually do something.
Well,
But besides that, it's something that we see is a consistent, but we also have things that we have to do and we worry about.
right. So, speaking of Congress, and because he owns them anyway, they could make this all go away because if they were to approve this airplane, that makes it constitutionally legal. Now, that doesn't necessarily make it ethical.
It doesn't make it constitutionally legal. It does set precedent. You need a constitutional conference for that, but
What? No, the president may accept a gift if Congress approves of it.
Oh, is that what it is? I'd have
Yes.
to look at
And
that.
the perfect
Okay.
example of that is the Statue of Liberty.
Right,
And
right, right.
perfect
Okay,
example,
I take back my statement.
a perfect example of where they said no was during the American Civil War. The King of Siam gave President Lincoln this huge elephant tusk. And he said, wow, this is cool. I want this. Gets the approval of Congress, who says, you know what, Abe, you're doing an awesome job of the war, but this ain't okay. Put it in the museum. And it went to the Department of Interior and never left. Um, what's his name? Barack Obama won the Nobel Peace Prize, which came with a medal that is technically, by these standards, worthless. So he could keep that. The 1.25 or 1.5 or whatever it was $1 million, he gave away to charity.
Yeah, I would have called the Nobel Prize and be like, "Hey guys, can you just push this back until I'm out of the office? 'Cause I would really like that
Yeah.
1.25 million."
Well, and that's what I don't understand about Trump. You would think he understands what goes into Air Force One, considering the fact that I know as a fact, he's been briefed on it.
All right.
If he accepts this plane, the amount of time taken to properly retrofit it, to have all the things that Air Force One has, yet still keep these luxurious features that are in it, will go beyond the current delivery date of Boeing's Air Force One.
Yeah, probably.
It
Yeah,
will.
Boeing's Air Force One is just a joke anyway at this point. But look, and I totally understand. Look, yeah, yeah, I get it. I get it.
Well, when you're looking at luxurious features, the way emirs fly and live their lives, and the way Donald Trump thinks he's an equivalent of, that's one thing. That's not what Air Force One is. And
Right.
the other
It's a
issue is,
mobile Oval Office that should needs to be secure for the president to operate from there in emergency situations.
okay, correct. And there was of course, Democratic senator, no Republican's going to step up and say this, but he looks at the guy from the media and says, what if we had some foreign government like that come to us and say, we would like to decorate the Oval Office? We would be upset with that idea.
Uh-huh.
What if that same government came to say, we would like to decorate and outfit the Situation Room? You know, the room in the
Yeah,
bunker
it's the same thing.
where they watch. Exactly.
It's the same thing, 100%.
Air Force One is the Oval Office, the residence, and the bunker on one item, on one
Yep.
entity. And we're okay with that?
I don't think we are okay with that. And I think that's why you're seeing Republicans and Democrats going like, "Hey, bro, you got to slow your roll." And there's multiple things, multiple stages with this. There's the obvious I scratch your back, you scratch mine idea of that. There's
100%. Yes.
there's obviously the foreign government itself, supplying anything to the United States is almost just embarrassing because like we don't need your help, bro. Like,
Right.
I don't need
Exactly.
your handout. Um, which by if we're using Boeing, we probably do because they're just a crap company. Um, and then there's that situation. So there, in all three aspects, look, I don't think that honestly, I don't think this is a big deal because I think that everybody from Republicans and Democrats are stepping up and going like, hey, this is a stupid idea. And I know they're trying to find a workaround of gifting it to the DOD and things like that, but I just
Yeah.
I don't think
We
that I
call
don't think
that
that this
we call that money laundering.
I mean, yeah.
That's what it is. That's money laundering.
I mean, okay. Okay.
And I'm like, Pam Bondi, you of all people are saying that's okay?
Wasn't she a lobbyist for Qatar?
Yes. something like $150,000 a month. I didn't make that's what I made in a year.
Whose fault is that, Yours? Yours or Pam's? You're
Well,
working for the wrong. You're
yeah,
working for the wrong people.
maybe a
You
little
were
bit of both.
securing the president instead of bringing him the deals. You should have been out there bringing him the planes. There's this closeted gay cutter community that's on Grinder right now. You could have been hooking it up for him.
Yeah. Isn't that also one of the countries where you get like beheaded or something?
Hey, man, you have diplomatic immunity.
Yeah, then I get sent home useless. No fun.
Hey, but hopefully you get sent home. You'll sent home useless with the plane though. 400 mils.
Yeah. I'm trying to also find. There was another thing I
Me
thought
the
of.
best is saying, "Can you see the chat?" Yeah, we can see the chat, but we're having a conversation. Me the best. You put a question or comment in there, and then we'll tell you what we think about it.
What do they say? Yeah, there's
Like,
super
hey,
fan.
we're in a live stream. Can you see the chat? Yeah, we're gonna stop and tell you that we can see the chat, even though I just did that. But that was a lull. All right, let's move on to a new topic.
I need Matt to say. Wait, what's I need a Matt to say Jacob Fatu statement. All gassed up and no brakes.
Hi, Ken. I'm not saying that. I am not your puppet, Ken. I am not your puppet, Ken.
Yeah, and we see the chat, but we also have a show to do. So, good morning. Welcome. This is Up the Middle. That's Matt. Over to my left, I'm Jurgs. And damn it, I lost my page. Okay.
Actually, I'm on the right from what I'm seeing. I'm seeing I'm on the right, which makes sense. I'm definitely right of you anymore. You might as well just have a sickle and
Well, wait, are you on the left on the screen, or
I'm on the right of the screen.
Okay.
Like I said, it makes sense. We're gonna put one of those little fuzzy hats on you and a sickle and a hammer and call you and march you in.
So, all right. So we don't have a plane yet, but isn't he back? Isn't he back in the United States? I thought he was planning on flying back in his new toy.
I'm not too sure. I didn't catch up with that this morning. If where his location is, as much as I do care.
Yeah,
I was doing other things. Where's Donnie today? I didn't wake up this morning and go, where's Donnie?
Yeah, no, I don't.
I'll get there. We'll figure out where he is. He'll show up. If he doesn't show up, then we'll hear about it.
You sent me a really good breakdown of yesterday's oral arguments for the Supreme Court, or in the Supreme Court, with regards to birthright citizenship. And does a district, what they really heard was not the actual issue of birthright citizenship, but does the district court have the authority to implement a nationwide injunction?
Right.
In this case, with regards to birthright citizenship.
Right.
And the biggest takeaway that I got from the day is that the government attorneys were not making any effort to defend the apparent unconstitutional executive order regarding birthright citizenship. It's like they knew they lost that one. They're trying to just win the injunction argument. Is that, and I'm pulling up the summary that you gave me, but is that kind of what you got from it, or no?
I think we should take a step back.
Okay, go ahead.
So let's just talk about this executive order first.
Okay.
The Trump executive order is basically saying, hey, we got to end birthright citizenship for kids being born in the United States from parents that are not here legally, and that's both parents. We're not saying like if one is an American citizen or here because they're allowed to be here for any reason, whatever. It's saying both parents. Does it say we came in here on tourism or walked across the border, had a kid, now the kid's a citizen, and now there's this anchor baby situation. He was trying to stop that, so he made an executive order about that. A judge in I think I want to say Maryland made an
Yes.
injunction saying, and this is off the top of my memory, so if I'm getting anything wrong, excuse me. It said like, hey, you can't do that, and so now went up to the Supreme Court. The way that the Trump administration is looking at this, they're not going to go head against the 14th Amendment. What they're saying is like, look, guys, if the president of the United States makes an executive order, we can't have every country bumpkin judge from wherever wherever lower federal court come in and just say you can't do that. Like that's crazy. Like why are we having judges in Oregon and Iowa and Maryland and Texas weigh in on all of these things? It's an executive order from the executive branch. If anybody has anything to say about the executive order from the executive branch, it should be of the same level court, which is the Supreme Court. Now, the Supreme Court has never had, from what I have researched, had an injunction like that. They have made stays that said we uphold injunctions on executive orders, but they have never come out and say, "Hey, Trump, you can't do that." From a judicial level, from a Supreme Court level. And so usually it has to be ruled on in a lower court and then either fast tracked or moved up the court system to the Supreme Court where they can have a hearing on it. And so that's what this is. That's the idea that the Trump administration is coming from, which is totally interesting. Saying like, "Hey, country bumpkin courts, just you can't keep just stopping things because you don't like Trump. Like this has to come from like a equal level court or Congress." Now, the
Okay, so
defendants, go ahead.
I almost get the equal level court thing, but that equal level court is federal, not the Supreme Court. The president is still, and so is Congress for that matter, still subject to other federal courts. That's I won't say that's a decision, but that's been common practice.
Right.
And I think that was the
That's
argument against
that's the
government.
argument right here. That is the
Yeah,
argument, and they're trying to say like, hey, just because we put out an executive order, every I don't know how many federal judges are out there. Not all these judges should have the ability just to stop the executive from making an executive order. It seems a little dysfunctional. So the other side of this is saying like, look, we have had birthright citizenship go through the Supreme Court multiple times. It's always been upheld. 14th Amendment, you're born in the United States, you are a United States citizen. You're born to a United States citizen outside of the States, you are a United States citizen. And but outside of the States, one or both parents have to be a United States citizen,
right.
full stop. It's not you have to be a citizen if you're born outside the United States citizen. And then it doesn't matter where the other parent is from. And so they're upholding it that way, saying like, look, this is already settled law. Like
Right.
you can't like we already know the answer. So let's back off. Super interesting
Yeah.
because there's two things that I think is gonna would this would change. Number one, obviously, it would put in question a lot of people that have U.S. citizenship. Now, then it would come into either Congress or the executive branch or even the court to rule who is a United States citizen at this point and this point going forward, and is this retroactive or not retroactive? The second thing is it also creates a new order of operations for the United States government of who can place stays on executive orders. And yeah, well, then that means the Supreme Court has a new role. So it's either Congress that has to get off their ass and actually do something, which is pretty not going to happen, or the Supreme Court is going to have to take up new, let's say,
Like being
responsibilities
the
that they didn't
president's
have
personal
before.
court.
Exactly. And so, well, I don't know, President's personal court, but actually taking up responsibilities they didn't have. And then I actually kind of feel that that is a different issue where it's like, hi, I'm the Supreme Court. I'm going to just say, no, you
Right.
can't do this to the executive branch. And now they're in a pissing match saying like, well, yes, I can. Well, no, you can't because I'm the Supreme Court. And they're like, well, why you have more power? Because now we're equal, but separate, right? That's what happened
Right.
in the in Ohio is we have this case in Ohio about gerrymandering, and basically the Ohio legislature, which weighs heavily Republican, created maps that were unconstitutional, and the Supreme Court said that they're unconstitutional, and the legislator said like, well, how are you going to enforce it? And they're like, well, we just told you to do it. I'm like, well, we're equal. I said we can, and you said we can't. So, nana, nana, boo, boo, what are you going to do? Nothing
Yeah,
happened.
but yeah, I see what they're saying about
So
equal.
yeah, so what would
But
you do to
there's
enforce the executive branch? That's the interesting thing, is like is like, if you're coming from that level to equal levels, what is the Supreme Court going to do? Call the cops?
yeah, and that's my that's my issue, is that they are separate but equal, but there's also still an existing system of checks and balances. When we get to a point where legislators or entire legislatures, as in like the entire body, or sitting vice presidents, as J.D. Vance has said, or former presidents like Andrew Jackson has done, get to a point where they just disregard a court ruling for the plain and simple reason because, one, they don't like the decision, and two, there isn't any sort of military or law enforcement arm in the court like there are at federal courts, lower federal courts, like there are in state courts, marshal service, sheriff's departments, state police, all follow I mean, when in Brown versus the Board of Education, the U.S. Marshal Service escorted those girls into a white school. And that's why I think the Marshal Service does the
But that
court
was
security. The
but that was
Marshal
before
Service does law
that was also
enforcement.
an executive order as well, right? That was supported by the
Probably,
executive. There wasn't.
I think there was,
That was
I think it
Johnson,
was
right? Under Johnson.
Nixon or Johnson. Yeah. Yeah. I think it was
But
Johnson.
Nixon or Johnson wasn't against that. They weren't saying like, no, don't let this happen. And the court was like, no, we have to let this happen. And the marshal followed the court, not the president. And I think that's what we see here. That the positive,
Right.
I'm just saying,
100%.
slippery slope here is like, if you have those two levels trying to argue about it, there's no then enforcement. The thing about the upward momentum of these cases is that it's ruled by court, it's ruled by court, it's ruled by judge, it's ruled by the Supreme Court, and then you have this chain of, I guess, authority throughout the law, where from state to local to district to circuit levels, you have the law enforcement following the law, not the mayors or the presidents or the governors. It's like, this is the law. This is what we have to enforce, and it's part of the legal system.
And of that whole system, of that whole judicial tree, the Supreme Court has the Supreme Court police, but that's it. That's the only one that they really have immediate control over, and that's simply security around the court building itself. So, yeah, I mean, I there is a blatant issue of integrity with these people who feel that it's okay, and I'm saying that on either side. You know, if Bill Clinton came up and, objected to a court decision saying you can't have interns in the Oval Office, or when they objected to, and I think this was the wrong decision, but when they objected to Larry Koch, the Supreme Court said yes, he had to do it. I think that was absolutely a wrong decision. The sitting president, does not have a choice when it comes to Secret Service protection. And therefore, especially the supervisors have a unique relationship with the president, like attorney-client, like doctor-patient, like spiritual leader and parishioner.
Mm-hmm.
But Larry Cockle testified. And as a result, there was a pissing match and a little bit of abrasiveness between the Secret Service and the Clintons. But they went along with it. So when what we have now is a really huge ethical issue. And I've seen this coming because I've seen other things that were building up to this. And that's why I've been saying we have an authoritarian, we have a fascist type of government right now in Donald Trump. Not everybody, but definitely in Donald Trump. And his people are, yeah, I see your private message. Actually, I reached out to them, not knowing that it was the night he was voted out of the DNC. What we're talking about now, on kind of like the side, of 25-year-old vice chair of the DNC was voted out of the DNC earlier this week, and not knowing that vote was taking place, knowing already, some of the things he was going through. I reached out to his assistant to try to get him on the show, and they said, yes, we'd definitely like to come talk to you, but we're a little busy right now. And soon after that, I found out about the results. So I got to take a break. When we come back, we'll wrap up with the Supreme Court. And then, we can actually probably throw David Hogue into the list and try to get to everything in the next 90 minutes. This is Up the Middle on the Mastiff Media Network. I'm here with Matt Deemer. We'll be back right after this. What are you doing later? I'll tell you what I'm doing. I'm going to the gym, but not just any gym. Momentum Fitness and Wellness. Walk right up to the door. There's a QR code on the door. You can sign up right there. You've got no excuse. But not only that, their equipment is amazing. It's kept up well. It's expanded. There's stretching area. There's CrossFit. There's hardcore training. A dedicated area for stretching, dunk tanks, sauna, everything you need to get that Hernando beach body or keep your Clearwater beach body. You can train with your shirt off, you can scream, you can yell, and you won't be intimidated either. Go to Momentum Fitness and Wellness on US 19 in Bayonet Point, Jasmine Estates. Build the momentum. All right. We are on Discord. Scan that QR code right there. I don't know why I'm going slow today. There seems to be a little bit of a lag. Scan that QR code and visit us on Discord, where we broadcast the show 5 days a week, as we do on some of the other social media platforms like Instagram, Biz Growth Collective. We'll talk about that after one of the other breaks. But now on Discord, we chat with you there during the breaks, during the show. We'll give you a shout out and actually connect you to the show from Discord. Really cool feature. Scan the QR code and join us if any of the other platforms you like could quite possibly go down. Also, 5 days a week, Daily Crypto News, hosted by my co-host today. He'll be back in a minute, Matt Deemer. That podcast taught me so much about crypto and investing. It's why, right now, I own almost 50% of this house. Of course, it's not in the best shape right now because of a hurricane, but it'll be looking pretty good. All right. Yeah, there we go. What do you think about the music?
I'm jamming, bro. Look at that nice
Pretty
little
chill.
fade out. That's amazing. That's amazing.
Yeah, I'm getting good at that.
That's hot.
David Hogue.
Is it
the
Hogue or
vice chair.
Hog?
I think it's Hogue.
I don't know. I don't know. I'm gonna call him Hog. You can
Let's
call
see
him
if I
Hog.
can-
We're talking about the same person.
Yeah, let me see if I can find some video where maybe.
Nah, we're fine, dude.
Here we go.
Oh, I don't care that much.
Joining us now, DNC Vice Chair David Hogue.
I will defer to
you
the
win.
former DNC
It's
member.
Hog. There you go.
I am
It
a
is.
former DNC member. Thank you for being here.
All right, there we go. So she's a former. Now he is too. Earlier this week, he was voted out of the. Can they even do this?
They just did.
Yeah, but that doesn't make. There's so much happening in our government right now. That doesn't make sure there's no guarantee that any of it happening is actually legal.
Well, I mean, it's a private entity. It's the DNC. It's not the government, dude.
Yeah. I don't know. So, is that how I want to do it? No, that's the one. There we go. Okay. So he's a 25-year-old vice chair.
I think he's he's a survivor of Parkland shooting as well.
Down here by me in the Tampa area. He's a little further south than that, but to give you an idea. And has he also run for Congress yet, or no? No, I guess he's
25. So you have to wait. I mean, no, you have to be 25.
I thought it was 27 and 35.
No, it's 25 and 35 for the presidency.
And Senate.
Senate, I feel is 28. I double check on that. While we're going on, I'm not gonna pause.
Yeah. I'll tell the story on him. He's 25-year-old vice chair of the Democratic National Convention. Okay, so he's kicked out, but you know what? Still, to be elected to that position in the first place is pretty damn amazing. And he's, like any other young student athlete that goes right to Major League Baseball or goes right to the NFL, it's
30, by the way, 30 to run for Senate.
Okay. He is that prodigy in politics. His tactical error, he told the truth. He said that there's too much seniority in government in general, but more specifically for him, the Democratic Party. And what did that do? Pissed off all the old people who, as we just said earlier this week, kicked him out. What does somebody like that do? Do they become an independent now? Like, is he a young Bernie Sanders? Or what does he do to recover from that?
I don't think he's gonna become an independent. I think he's gonna absolutely, if he is motivated as I think he might be, he's gonna split the Democratic Party and wreck the Democratic Party in their current structure. Which, to be perfectly honest, I think that it only takes a little bit of push to topple the dominoes. I don't see the Democratic Party and their current stance on their hierarchy or their the way that they do this insider horse trading thing is standing that long or actually that secure. I feel that it's very fragile. So if you want to push a little bit on that tower, I think it'll crumble.
Well, to that point, we keep talking about how low Donald Trump's approval rating is. The approval rating of the entire Democratic Party is lower. It's worse as a whole. So he's got every opportunity to do that right now.
Right. And look, I think that we have to remember that. Okay, so let's just bring this back so everybody who's listening understands what's going on. Is David Hogg now? And there's two sides to this, and I do agree with both sides. However, I don't know if I actually like David Hogg's way of doing things.
It was a little forceful, I think.
So what happened was he was elected vice chair. And he was like, look, I'm going to start a PAC, and I want to primary Democrats. I want to primary these old fossil Democrats that are sitting there and doing nothing besides getting a paycheck and not fighting for the things that we need to fight for. And I think that a lot of people are looking at this going like, hey, we just lost to Trump again. There wasn't a Democratic primary in the for presidency, and I think that was really soured a lot of donors. Really soured a lot of Democrats, especially independent leaning Democrats or more center leaning Democrats. Especially since
I've actually got to give you kudos on that, and maybe even a little Blake, as much as it would pain me to do so.
Ugh.
If you remember, I was okay with Kamala Harris coming in and immediately replacing Joe Biden.
I remember that. Oh, I remember.
And the biggest reason why I was okay with it was because of the timeliness. They didn't have time at that point to have primaries. And I still
Yes, they
stand
did.
by that.
Nope.
I don't think so. Not decently, not appropriately. And I still stand by that. But knowing what I know now, in that there was Joe's decline during the course of his first and only administration, they should have known that coming into primary season. At which point he gets sat down, if he doesn't want to initiate the conversation himself, and say, Joe, we're having a primary.
Well, let's stop right there and then go back to David Hogg, right? David,
Okay.
again, he made this pack and he donated $100,000. First of all, where does a 25-year-old have $100,000? Apparently he does. But to donate, I mean, you having 100 grand is 100 grand, but you're saying I'm going to donate it. That's this dude got some money. To
You know,
primary.
I think that goes back to what I was saying at the beginning of the segment. Is he is that Division I political student, and he's got the supporters behind him to raise that kind of money. He's from Harvard, so there's something in the family that he can do that with, even if that was still grants and something that he got as a result of Parkland. The money's coming in from somewhere,
Right.
So I think $100,000 might actually be a little light.
Okay, so let me just continue really quick.
Good, yeah.
So primary Democrats that are incumbents that he said are do nothing Democrats. People like that, right? People like that idea. For the most part, there's two sides of that. Most Democrats are like, why are you taking their time and money to primary Democrats when that's a Democratic vote in Congress, when we need Democrats in Congress, and and why aren't you putting that money toward winnable districts instead of not supporting them, because the DNC is very effective at ignoring every Democrat besides the ones they want to pay attention to.
Right.
And so that's one side of it, and the other side is saying, like, yeah, they're not doing nothing because look at, like I was trying to say earlier, is the Democrats lost the presidency. They didn't have a primary, even though they were the party of save democracy or whatever the hell that meant, and then you don't have a primary. Obviously, save democracy, and you get voted in, and then you vote this guy out for even speaking anything. And so it looks pretty bad. So those are the two sides. Those are the two sides that are happening with David Hogg at the moment in this pack. So they looked at this saying, like, look, you can't just we're a Democratic Party. We're a unified party here. You can't just start willy-nilly making packs to primary our people, which makes total sense as well. That's kind of crazy, to be honest with you. I personally do think he's overstepping the line. At the same time, it shows that this goes back to what you were just saying about President Biden writing again. You weren't allowed to have that conversation.
Yeah.
You weren't allowed to have that conversation. And if you had that conversation, and I'm going to show you the emails. I've said about these emails so many times, because these emails came from Democrats to me when I called Biden to resign and step aside and not run again. Yeah. And I was so surprised that Democrats would even talk to other Democrats like that. And it's like, okay, well, the conversation's over because you are so here. So I'm gonna. I don't really care. I'm gonna call these people out. Here you go. I'm gonna send them to you in our chat. A couple
I was going to say, you can share the screen now too.
Oh yeah.
Right, yeah, here. You should be able to.
Let me share the screen. Here's a shared screen of, and these are actual emails that I got during whatchamacallit. Here, look at this. This person. There you go. That's a nice little. Hey, there's that. Look at that.
So it's F you very much. Goodbye. Let's see how that will work out for your own bid. Ursula Myers, Kerry Kurtz says FU. Lori Wise says FU. Biden will win. Your opinions mean nothing. Deemer for Congress. No, he does not. You effing moron. You're playing right into Trump's hand. Yeah, I don't know. That's from C. Debs. Sarah, what's Sarah's last name? Sarah K's mom. All right, mom. No effing way, punk. Hulk Hogan. There he is. Grow as. See, this is what I love about people that write this shit. John, go back to John a minute. John Lane writes, grow as AS set. What he's trying to say is grow a set, meaning a set of testicles, and use it like a man, which in all actuality, Matt's doing.
So I really don't know.
But this is why you don't write emails like this out of passion and anger, because you make simple typos like that, and then some grammar police a-hole like me calls you out on international radio. Joe Biden should not drop out of the race. He's the only person who has beaten Trump, and he has one of the most successful first terms of any president. That's true. He's also the oldest president in history, and is now being talked about having been put in a wheelchair. There will be a tremendous backlash from the Democratic base if he is forced out, which the pundits and mega donors are too blinded by hubris to see. And that would appear to be the case for you too, Mr. Deemer. Okay, so at least Elizabeth Puccini wrote with a little bit of class. Whatever this guy is, UDMST33 says go to hell. Biden will remain, and he's our ticket to win against Trump. Why would you ask him to step down if you are not in Team Trump?
So you see where we're going with this.
Yeah.
So this is from people that you know what I'm saying. You had no opinions, or else you follow the party line, or else this is the kind of onslaught you get. And I have at least 100 more of these emails from Democrats that supported me. So that these are, and a lot of them are donors. Some of them said, like, I'm so ashamed that I donated to you. And the funny thing is, with these little sheep that haven't been shepherded by Biden at that time, and I don't really care, because like those emails were so offensive that as soon as Kamala came on the stage and she raised all that money, everybody's like, "Oh, I guess we were wrong." Like,
yeah.
Like, oh, now your team, and you took out the Biden sign, you threw it in the trash, and then in the same motion, put in a Kamala Harris sign after you sent me an email to tell me to go eat a bag of D's.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, it's just, it was so absurd.
That's what I want to know, how you do it. And I'm not saying you're one of these people. I don't think you are at all, actually. But how can J.D. Vance call Trump the modern day Hitler and then turn around and be his vice president? How can these people write the emails that they did to you and then turn around and support Kamala Harris and pretend like there's nothing wrong?
Because they actually don't know, because they don't know what they believe, and they're for the team than actual ethics, morals, or a vision for the country. They don't know what to believe. They just want to be told what to believe and be team whatever. And it's obvious, because nobody actually deep thinks policy. That's why they are staunchly against anything the right does, and the right staunchly against anything the left does, because they don't know how to freaking think.
Yeah.
Full stop.
Which is exactly what I teach people here. We did a lesson on that yesterday. Not only how to fact check, but why to fact check. When she announced her candidacy, did you capitalize on that anyway? Hey, I told you so.
First of all, I did say, and I told you so, and we were right that it should have happened. But I also was
Yeah.
right that there should have been a primary. I did not support Kamala because there wasn't a primary.
Okay.
I did not support this movement. I was campaigning on this save democracy mantra that the Democratic Party cooked up in a consultant lab, and they didn't even practice it.
Yeah.
I cannot get behind that, dude.
Good for
Anyway,
you.
going back to David Hogg, this is what's
Okay.
happening here.
Yeah. So about him, he's 25. He's full of piss and vinegar. I mean, look at this one photo. Look at this one down here.
Yeah, that looks like piss and vinegar all in one.
Yeah.
That's a salad, dude. That's a piss salad. Vinegar, olive oil, and on a little piss.
With some ranch in it, actually. That's why that face. But he's at a podium and he's slamming his fist. It's the March for Our Lives movement, which is an anti-gun. It's a gun legislation think tank. And I get it. There was a time where I was a little bit more passion and a little less thought. And in a lot of those cases, I was right. But it doesn't necessarily mean the way I went about telling people about it was the best way to do it.
Right. The one thing I do say about young people. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say both sides are too old. What did you say the youngest people in Congress were? Like, you would have been a baby.
Oh yeah. I mean, I would have been at probably the bottom. No, I'd probably be at the bottom. I'd be probably in the middle, 40%.
There's a lot of younger people now down here in Florida. The black dude from, where was it, Miami or Orlando? One of those two.
I think it was the Orlando area.
Yeah, he's like 27, 28, something like that.
Is that what's his name? Maxwell Frost?
Yes. He, not just because he's black, but because of his age, he is a minority. Not many of his colleagues have a 2 in front of their age. Maybe some of the 3 or 4, but they're all 50s and up. And so he's right. Both sides of the political spectrum have way too much seniority. And there is a certain level to which you get entrenched.
I have info for you. So it looks like the median age in the House of Representatives is 57 years old, 57.5. 40. If you were 45, you would be part of the younger cohort. And it looks like Gen X is the largest generational group, and it's 41% of the members, though. So it looks like you are pretty much in a solid Gen X block. What percentile would that be? So look, it's not that young, but it's younger, 100%.
But
you'd
also,
be in the 15 to 20, you'd be in the 15 to 20 percentile. So you'd be younger than 80 to 85% of the people.
Yeah. And the leadership is where?
I'm sorry, 30. You'll be younger than 65 to 70% of the House. Sorry.
Yeah. But even more importantly, the leadership, people like Mitch McConnell, Johnson, they're all upper 60s or 70s, with the exception of Hakeem Jeffries.
In all fairness, though, and I gotta say this because Hakeem Jeffries is absolute rubbish. So, like, look. Here's the thing: is that whenever you pass the torch, the new torchbearer has to hit the ball out of the park or at least play a good game. Hakeem Jeffries is not. He's not doing any justice for Gen X. So I hope that they need new leadership in Congress. That's for sure.
Okay. What
my
is
opinion.
it about? Yeah, that's all right. Good. Go. What is it about Hakeem Jeffries that you're not liking?
Besides him being an idiot?
Okay, good enough.
No, look. This guy is leading the Democrats in the House, and he would come up in front of the press and press conference and say things like, "We're in the minority. What power do we have?" That is not if you're the speaker, the minority leader of the House, You don't say things like that.
A bad look.
That's not a bad look. That's dumb.
Look.
That's politically stupid. You are literally the voice of the people of the United States of America in the House of Representatives at that point, and that's what you say. I look, if you're a regular person in the House, honestly, if I was going to talk to my constituents, I probably would say something like that. I'd be like, look, they're stonewalling everything. We can't really do that much, but we're out there fighting. We don't have that much power, but we are working hard, or something like that. I'll tell them the truth. But if you're the leader of the party to try to rally up the House Democrats to at least vote in lockstep, you don't go like, well, what can we do? We don't have any power. Like, what are you talking about, dude?
That I get.
That wasn't a gaffe. That is, and the thing is that wasn't a gaffe on Hakeem Jeffries. That is Hakeem Jeffries, because that's how he's been acting ever since Trump got elected. Like this little tail between my legs, I can't do anything about it. It's honestly, it's like, what are you doing, bro?
Yeah,
now, I'm not saying he's not a good guy.
Mistake.
And I'm not saying that he's not a smart guy. I'm not saying that he's not a good representative to his constituents. I'm just saying that he's not the leader that you need right now.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a fair point.
Now, he might be a good peacetime leader. He might be a good leader when you have the majority, but he's not a wartime leader. And right now, you need a wartime leader, and Hakeem Jeffries is not that.
You need a wartime consigliere.
Yes, sir.
We got a couple minutes left in this hour, and we're going to lose some affiliates in the process. So let me tell everybody where everybody else is and where you can find us. Let me take this break. Go fill up your protein shake or whatever you just killed, and we'll be back at the top of the hour with you. And we'll talk about David Hogg some more, and then get on with some of the other things we got on the list. Right now, I think Sportcat is still going to be dealing with some family issues later today. So we'll probably take this episode and just replay it in another hour from now, so that anybody that missed it, still has it. Joseph Soul, The Broken Mirror of Memories, Iraq and Other Tales. He's going to be on Coast to Coast AM the 29th of May. The time has changed. I got to look at that. So I'm just going to take that. Check your local listings. He sent me a message. I've got to go check in on that and find out what the actual time is, but still will be on the 29th of May, Coast to Coast AM. If you are somewhere where you can't tell people you listen to the show because of the government and such, write us at yergs@shayergs.com. That's my hotel address. Tell us where you're hollering in from, and we'll do what we can. We got to do to keep you informed. The Capitol switchboard is 202-224-3121. Call your senators, call your congressmen, tell them what you think about Doge, and tell them what you think about $400 million airplanes. Let's see what else. I'm going to skip through some of these just to make sure we get to the important stuff. Here we go. Yergs.com. Bookmark these two addresses. Yergs.com for the video, and Yergs.radio if you got to do audio only, like in the car or at work or something like that. That way, when any of the other platforms get taken down, you still got us. These are on servers that are not inside the country, and Trump can't touch them. For other news and information, go to mastiff.media for show notes and other info. And that's it for now. I think I'm just kind of scrolling through these. We can do some of the others later. Also, well, of course, this guy, Matt at dailycryptonews.net. He's the host of the Daily Crypto News. You can find more about that at dailycryptonews.net. Like I said, definitely something that's taught me a lot. All right, man. So last thoughts on David Hogg. You gotta make sure I keep saying that too, because I'm bitchy about getting people's names right. And I kept calling him Hogue, thinking nobody's gonna have a last name Hogg, but apparently he does.
He's the Hogg. Last thoughts is that the Democratic Party needs to get their shit together. they need to encourage more conversation, and if by encouraging more internal conversation and allowing the conversation to happen either behind closed doors or within the Democratic Party, you won't have these very public outbursts of discontent with the Democratic Party, and you might get to solutions that benefit the party in general, and shape the party into a party that can win in the future. And I don't think that's where it's going right now.
Okay. Is there some sort of reconciliation? Like people in the party kind of give him an attaboy at some point because he was right?
I mean, dude, are people calling Dean Phillips up right now and apologizing? No. So I doubt it.
Yeah. I don't know why that. Oh, there we go. I'm trying to fix some notes here. All right. Up next, former director of the FBI, James Comey, tweets a message 8647. And what happens? He gets a visit from some coworkers of mine. But not only that, Attorney General Pam Bondi makes the statement that we take every threat very seriously and prosecute where necessary. Current FBI Director Kash Patel says that they are working very closely with the Secret Service, the investigating agency for something like that, and will supply whatever support necessary. Here's where I step in, everybody. Having been a Secret Service agent for 21 years and having done high-profile threat cases, I wouldn't know how many times I worked directly with the Attorney General's office or with the FBI, even during my 11.5-year stint in Washington, D.C. Zero. Zip. So tell me again how this current administration is not weaponizing the Justice Department, among others. And to push back on, or to present both sides, tell me why a former FBI director would not know the harsh intentions of the use of the words or the phrase 86 to 86 something or someone. Tell me how you can be the director of the FBI and have no idea what that means. I'm not saying he wanted to endorse any violence or to kill Donald Trump. I don't think he did. But he can't be surprised that he's getting the attention that he's getting right now, especially considered he's one of the people that have been fired by Donald Trump within recent years. Matt, your turn. Rant over.
I see it both sides. I see the Trump administration doing what they usually do, be a little. They can dish it, not take it.
Yeah,
They're overact. Anytime you say anything to the administration that they don't like, they try to go nuclear on the most extreme way possible because they just can't take anything. At the same time, I do understand why he should get a visit from the Secret Service. I totally understand it. This is the FBI director saying 8647. I don't know if it means like vote him out or whatever, or get rid of him or impeach him, when 86 is used, it's up for interpretation. And when it comes to the president of the United States, I don't care who he is, I'm not going to leave that interpretation up to people to use that to act or call for violence. I'm visiting the guy, and now it's on my radar. I'm sorry. It's on my radar, and I would say that you, James Comey, are dumb. Absolutely dumb, and you're playing stupid games.
On a good day, that's a necessary way to say, 100%. If I was a supervisor of the Protective Intelligence Squad, I would find my best guys or 100%. Gals. And because this is obviously the situation that it is. We're not going to a mental hospital and talking to a quadriplegic who doesn't have the means to carry out something like that, which is one of the things that we actually look at.
Or somebody without any kind of power or presence or influence. This isn't like I have 5 followers on Twitter. This is
Right.
somebody who has influence.
This is somebody who's got friends somewhere, and they might be dark. So, yeah, we need a little statement from him. They'll go and they'll get and they'll probably call and say we're coming if they have that number handy, which they should, because as a former federal employee, if nothing else, the Office of Personnel Management would have it. The Justice Department would likely still have it. As a former director, they have the Directors Association and so on, where all the old guys come together. Yeah, this is definitely, I would have to say this has to get looked at. We don't go into something like this presuming that because, this guy's a celebrity, he didn't mean it. No. When we went to, what's her name? The guy, the stupid bitch that had the head cut off, the comedian. We went there.
What was her name?
The one who used to do the things with Anderson Cooper on New Year's Eve.
Yeah, I can't remember. Whatever. But yeah. Kathy Griffin.
Yes. No,
Kathy something.
Kathy, you're right.
Griffin or something. Kathy Griffin.
Something like that. Yeah. I don't think she's that funny anyway. But anyway.
No, she's horrible.
And she tries to be funny when she's drunk, usually with Anderson Cooper. But everyone gets taken seriously. Oh, on New Year's Eve, she was trashed. That's why she got fired.
She's usually trashed, I think.
I think so. But we do take each and every one of these very seriously. Check each and every box. Doesn't matter who they are. I had a case somewhere in the East Bay when I was in San Francisco. This guy puts a statue of George W. out on his lawn with an axe in his forehead and blood coming out of the statue. And we're all ready to call local police and go over and talk to the guy. And unfortunately for that situation, you talk about, different jurisdictions. We were in what we called the Ninth Circuit, play on words for Ninth Circuit. And that court already decided that such artistic commentary is freedom of speech. Now, this is a statue with the sitting president with an axe in his head and blood gushing out of it. But my boss was like, chill out, go confirm he doesn't actually want to do it and that there's no actual axes sitting around. And the reason he knew that was because the same artist did the same statue with Bush Sr., and that's where the decision came out when they tried to rake him over the coals that time.
I mean, look, I want to be clear. This is freedom of speech. This falls directly into freedom of speech. However, just because it's freedom of speech doesn't mean you don't get a knock at your door going like, hey guys, just want to make sure everything's okay over here. And just FYI, we'll be watching you for the next 90 days.
Oh no, it's going to be a lot longer than 90 days.
Oh yeah.
He's going to be, not that he's going to be like, this incident will be in Secret Service records for life. It doesn't go away. And we'll make that clear to him. I don't think he's going to do anything close to this. I think he's going to continue to be vocal against Trump, and he should be. If that's his feelings.
Freedom of speech. That's great.
The Secret Service is not there to sway him over to the Trump side. But they are there to keep Trump safe or any other protectee safe, every protectee. And I think on its face, as I look at this, I think he's thinking 86, as in, like you said, kick him out of office, throw him out, impeach him, whatever. He himself has said that he does not endorse or condone or encourage any violence. And that's why he took the post down, because that's not what he meant. And he didn't. And this is my other beef. You're telling me the director of the FBI does not know that 86 can sometimes mean to kill somebody? I mean, clearly he has not seen the Star Wars trilogies and
It really,
Operation 86.
it really shows that this guy couldn't really think things through. Maybe he should have been FBI director. Probably deserved to get fired.
Or he is trying to stir up trouble.
Maybe.
We can't discard that just because he wears a suit and tie and has a nice haircut.
We got a lot more things on our docket, man. We should probably move on.
All right. Yeah, that's good. Up next, what do we have? So we got that one. Mexican Cartel has sent their family members across the border and into the United States with the approval and blessing of the same person trying to kick them all out. What the hell? I mean, raise your hand if you're getting dizzy with all this stuff now. We're kicking illegals out, but then we accept them from South Africa. Then we kick them out again. And then we accept them from Mexico, the same place we called them murderers and rapists. And who is it that we're accepting? The family members of murderers and rapists. When is all this going to become at least a little bit organized? And as the kids are saying these days, make it make sense. Sorry, that was my dog. Yeah, as the kids are saying these days.
Is your dog a dragon?
No, he's got some GI issues. And sometimes he just has to like blow it out and clear it out of his chest.
Okay, that's gross. Moving on.
Yeah. This is interesting.
What?
There's a former congressman that I've actually been trying to get a hold of. And okay, now it's, I don't know, Joe Walsh. I don't remember where he was out of, but he just made some post. A final look today at my conversation with former FBI DHS intel expert, and then the thing cut off. But it's a 37-minute episode. I don't think we got time to do it now. But yeah, so why are we? Where is this coming from? Even, I mean, is this more distraction? Because maybe that's all the Air Force One BS was from something else, or is this the actual story we should be paying attention to? Why are we importing illegals during a time when we're trying to export them?
So, for context, you want me to give the context of this for everybody? I'm going to give the context for everybody here. I'm going to give it. So, this is the family of.
So go ahead.
Say what?
No, go ahead.
What? You said you already gave context?
Yeah, I pretty much gave what I know about it.
You missed some big things, by the way. We should probably mention that this is not just the family of Mexican drug cartels. This is the family of El Chapo,
right,
of the Sinaloa cartel. This was organized not by El Chapo himself, but the son of El Chapo. Okay. Who is now cooperating, allegedly cooperating with the DEA and FBI and blah blah blah, whatever three-letter institution. And so, what people are saying is that this is a way to get more drug cartels to cooperate in stopping violence in Mexico and trying to cease operations if the United States figures out a way to how to protect their family members. One of the thing is let's just look at this from a macro or a zoom out perspective. The United States and Mexico wages war on these drug cartels. It's just war, fire, boom, 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 guns, fighting, literal war, right? You say stop. What's going to happen to if you say stop from one side of the cartel? Another cartel goes over there and kills your whole family, right? So they
Right.
can't stop. So would you want to stop? If you arrest somebody, El Chapo, who takes over somebody else, they're still warring. I honestly don't know if this. I don't think that this is a bad idea to say,
Okay.
hey, look, if you have a wife and kids and whatever, we're going to get you. You go to jail. Let's figure out how to get your family out of there. But we're taking down your cartel. We're taking down the other cartels. And if the other cartels don't, we're going to go scorched earth on them. And if they want to protect their families, they should bring them over here too and surrender themselves. It looks like that is what is happening from a negotiation point of view. And to be perfectly honest, I don't see why it seems like that it gives the at least leaders of these cartels a way out so that they can start working with the United States government and the Mexican government to stop these cartels. I'm not against
All
this.
right. That makes a little bit more sense. Okay. And see, that's the opportunity for us as independent media to do so much better. Because I'll admit, I fell for it. I saw just the headline, which was just the headline that I gave. And because it was one of the last stories I put together last night and didn't get a chance to look at it further today, that's all I know. So I'm glad you actually did your homework. Somebody showed up ready for class today.
Hey man, I showed up ready for class. This what happens when I'm living La Vida Loca, eating my apple over here like a pretentious little bitch.
Yeah, I was going to say, where are you in the world?
Hey man, undisclosed locations. I'm living the lifestyle.
Is Dick Cheney in the next room?
Vibes, bro. It's all vibes over here.
Nice. Nice.
But no. So look, here's what I would say to everybody talking about this whole deal. It's like the only war we have on drugs right now is literal war. You go over there and you fight with them with machine guns and missiles and rocket launchers and machetes or whatever. You see, they go off and they find your people and they hang them beheaded off of bridges. And then you go over there and you try to blow up their families and their houses. And then when you do that, you cut the head off the snake. Another head grows back on that damn snake. I like the thinking outside the box. Drug cartels on our southern border, bad. Mexico's a beautiful, beautiful place. If they get rid of the drug cartels and they can revitalize their economies in their cities, dude, I would so love that. I would love to have a more open border with Mexico without the drug cartels and all this stuff. But there is a major problem in Mexico with these people. And remember, some of the most murderous cities in the world are there in Mexico. So we can't pretend that we're over. This is out of proportion. That there aren't this threat outside of our border. At the same time, I like the idea of thinking outside the box. And you know what? And it might. And if that's the carrot that leads the horse to take a bite, to say, hey, we'll protect your family. We'll move them to the U.S. If we're going to put 24-hour surveillance on your family, though, because if you start drug stuff out of here, we're going to arrest them all and we're going to get them. No messing around. You can go shop at Walmart all you want, but if you touch one drug, we're getting your ass and we're burying you under the prison. But other than that, I like it. I don't see anything. As of right now, I don't see anything wrong with it. And I just see a lot of power clutchers saying like, "Oh my God, I can't believe the family, dude." You don't know if the wife is being held hostage out of fear because El Chapo's a psychopath and he has 40 mistresses with 180 children. I don't know, but that sounds like it could be a possibility. I don't know.
So, yeah, the FBI has done that for a while. It's called the Witness Protection Program, and we've done similar things, not as sexy as what the FBI can do. But yeah, that only makes sense. And I know the intelligence side of the world, has done stuff like that. Um, you get them where it hurts. You seize the money, you seize the assets, and you hurt their lives. And when you get family members that don't want, that's where you go to in any criminal enterprise. Are the people who are either the weakest and will flip more easily, or even better, the people who don't want to be there in the first place. Just get me out. And family members like that aren't a part of the business, aren't a part of the family business.
Yeah.
They're the first ones to want to go. Because otherwise, the only outcome they have is collateral damage.
Yep.
And that's not a good collateral damage.
And I promise you that a mother with, multiple children isn't like a gung-ho holding the AK-47 about the business, trying to keep her 5-year-old in the business because the business is the most important thing. She's like, hey, I got a 5-year-old, a 3-year-old, a 7-year-old, a 9-year-old. That's probably more important than making sure my fentanyl, cocaine, heroin, drug cartel is up and running.
Do you know how many it was?
No, I don't.
Yeah.
No, I don't. And another thing, we know about this, but another thing that people don't mention a lot is, and for better or worse, is like, actually, I don't know where I was going with that. I was going to say it shouldn't affect people that much because a lot of times people are these bad people have their kids in the United States already, and you don't even know it.
Right.
Like what was it? Kim Jong Un. He studied like at a university in Switzerland, and like nobody knew who he was, and he was just like this party frat dude. And like, oh, you're the next dictator of North Korea. I didn't know that. Hu Jintao was an exchange student over here. Like these kids of really important people go over the place. I actually think El Chapo's son studied in the United States. If you like, there's
one of them
stories.
did.
There's stories from all over. Like, who is it? Marco's kids. What was Marco from the Philippines?
Marco from Philippines, yeah.
Yeah, like his kids studied in Hawaii, and like.
I had a funny story about the Philippines. Right after they left power, there was the one successor. I've got a small guitar in the other room. That was a gift from her. I was on the advance team in San Francisco for her first visit, and we're talking about the banquet room where she's going to meet all these local Filipino Americans. And the staff person from her office was wanting no pipe and drape, no bike rack, no fence around the stage to protect her and create a barrier like we do in large venues like that. And I'm like, there's X amount of people. We don't have an option. She's here in our country. This is what's going to happen. And she says, don't worry. Nothing's going to happen. We'll be fine. I said, okay, what is going to keep you or what is going to keep all of these people away from the stage and not near the president? And I gave the example of the Catholic Church. The biggest threat to the Holy Father are 1.4 billion Catholics who, when you come to their country, they want to see him. And she said, there's going to be me and this other staffer at each corner of the stage. And and this was her actual answer. She says, there's going to be a magic line between the two of us and nobody's going to cross that line. And I'm like, oh my God. Okay. And she goes on and she says, we sacrifice security to add to pomp and circumstance. And she says, don't worry, nothing has ever happened with that in our country. Well, as you can probably imagine, we study assassination throughout history not just throughout the United States. And I said, actually, there was a guy in your country who returned back after being expelled to run for president, and they were so against him, they shot him the moment he got off the plane. He didn't even get the ground. And while I'm telling her this story, all proud that I know Filipino history, there's this colonel from the Filipino army behind her, waving me off, giving me the, don't go there, don't go there. And I'm like, F you, dude. She's trying to do my security plan. I'm going there. This is me as the, what was his name? Hogg time of my life, the David Hogg time of my life, a little fuller of piss and vinegar. And I said, that guy didn't even make it to the ground. She said, yes, he did make it to the ground right after he got shot. I know because he was my brother. And I'm like, oh my God. You wanted how many people in between? How many people did you say we're going to keep these people away? We'll make that happen. But no, we got bike rack in. Our boss said absolutely not. She's crazy.
Foot in mouth.
Brother. Yeah. This lady was like, oftentimes people like that are not only staffers, but they're also high donors in countries like that.
Mm-hmm.
She was like the Oliver Stone of the Philippines. She was like this big deal movie maker from the Philippines. And being in San Francisco, that's close enough to Hollywood. So, she came up to arrange part of the visit for, I can't think of who it was, but it was whoever succeeded the Marcos family in the Philippines. It was a woman, was the president.
I can't think of it off the top of my head.
But
anyway,
yeah. Anyway,
we have two more topics to get to today. The budget house deal and Putin snub. Where do you want to go next?
I got some of the budget stuff pulled up, so I'll put the Hill on the screen, and we can talk about that quick. So the big beautiful bill is, as of today, blocked in the budget committee, and
Good.
this is as of like 30 minutes ago.
Oh, nice.
House Budget Committee on Friday blocked the panel from advancing the bill full of President Trump's domestic priorities. The 16-21 vote marks a major setback for leadership hoping to get the bill to the Senate before Memorial Day. The Budget Committee must advance the 1,116-page bill, dubbed One Big Beautiful Bill Act, before it can move on to the Rules Committee to do that to the House floor. The panel combined portions of the mega bill advanced over the past 2 weeks by various committees, including measures regarding Medicaid, taxes, and food aid. But conservatives dug in on their opposition to the measure, and leadership was unable to strike a deal that appeased them in time. So, not happening. There you go. So what conservatives are blocking this? If the far right is pro-Trump, are these the more moderate ones, or what's happening?
No, this is the far right that's going to block it, in my opinion.
Okay.
I mean, the left are blocking it because it's not the left's bill, obviously. But there are actual concerns about this bill. First of all, this bill wants to raise the debt ceiling by $4 trillion. One,
Okay.
anybody in the far right was going like, we need to, get our spending in order. So I doubt it's the moderates, because the moderates just don't really. Anyway, whatever. Anyway. So what did this bill do? Let's just start there.
Yeah.
This bill is going to raise the debt ceiling by $4 trillion. It was going to have a deficit of $1.975 trillion or something like that. Where was the money going? Well, the defense budget was going to be up to around $930 to $950 billion, or around that $1 trillion mark that Trump wanted. Meanwhile, cutting $800 billion to Medicaid, and over the next 10 years, plus other things like SNAP and other social safety nets. So raising the budget on defense, lowering it on different things like Medicaid and SNAP and what have you. Meanwhile, still running a $1.97 trillion deficit. Long story short is this bill was, I think, DOA. It's just not jiving with anybody. One, the Democrats are never going to vote for this or even concede to voting for this because of the social impact that it could have. The right Republicans are not going to even come close to even talking about this if you're not reeling in the spending and you're going to raise the ceiling even $4 trillion more, which is going to pull us over $40 trillion of debt, 41 trillion, if you will. I think it's 41 trillion, or at least 40.5 or something. Anyway, and the moderates in the middle are going to have to figure out, like, what do their constituents feel about this? Like, what does my constituency look like? Does it look like somebody who is benefiting from SNAP? Well, you know where I'm going to fall, especially if you're a Republican. Yeah. Democrats are all going to vote against it, obviously, but the Republicans are going to be like, well, if I have a impoverished district, I'm going to have to really consider this. Or, long story short, it was a stupid bill.
Excuse me.
Let me rephrase that. It was a stupid, bad faith bill. It was a bill that was created in bad faith with no logic to it, and the Republicans should be absolutely ashamed of themselves.
One of the things I saw during the course of the week, while this was coming to fruition, was the outrageous number of people that would have lost health care from the Medicaid cuts that were in Republican districts. Health care from...
Well, yeah, of course. That's the whole point.
Yeah.
That's the whole point. So here's the thing. Here's the thing. And I've been pretty clear about my stance of the budget. Is that if you're going to... We have a deficit. We have to address it. The debt is getting crazy. We have to address it. We can't pay $1 trillion a year on interest on our debt. It's not sustainable. Right. But you can't raise certain expenditures like defense spending while cutting the safety nets for people. What if you're going to make and then still run a deficit of $2 trillion? If you're going to get your budget in order, you need to have logical, well thought out, and well communicated cuts to the budget in the idea of, hey, we all have to sacrifice at this time. Nobody's going to be happy about it. Doesn't matter who you are. But if you don't affect everybody equally, it looks like you're playing favorites with industry, with donors, with lobbyists, or certain constituents, and it's not going to be playing well for the American people. And that's what this bill is. This bill is poorly conceived, horribly administered, and it was DOA.
Yeah. 10.3 million people, according to the Congressional Budget Office. 10.3 million people would be losing Medicaid with this bill. It's a lot of voters. All right, I got to take a break. When we come back, we'll wrap up today with Putin snubbing peace. This is Up the Middle on the Mastiff Media Network. We'll be back after these words. Hey gang, it's Jurgs, host of Up the Middle. With my university degrees in history and political science and 21 years as a special agent in the U.S. Secret Service, I've lived what others can only talk about. Join me, 11 a.m. Eastern, 8 Pacific, Monday through Friday, on Jurgs Radio, Rainbow Radio, and Right Talk Radio. Up the Middle. Politics for the rest of us. What are you doing later? I'll tell you what I'm doing. I'm going to the gym, but not just any gym. Momentum Fitness and Wellness. Walk right up to the door. There's a QR code on the door. You can sign up right there. You've got no excuse. But not only that, their equipment is amazing. It's kept up well. It's expanded. There's stretching area. There's CrossFit. There's hardcore training. A dedicated area for stretching, dunk tanks, sauna, everything you need to get that Hernando beach body or keep your Clearwater beach body. You can train with your shirt off, you can scream, you can yell, and you won't be intimidated either. Go to Momentum Fitness and Wellness on US 19 in Bayonet Point, Jasmine Estates. Build the momentum. Broken Year of Memory, Iraq and Other Tales. One of our superfans, Joseph Soul, and his book about his stories in Iraq and coming home. Scan the QR code that's right there to get the link to Amazon. I've read this book, really good memory, or really good stories, really compelling story. Broken Mirror of Memory, Iraq and Other Tales. And don't forget, he's going to be on Coast to Coast AM, 29th of this month. Check your local listings and check him out during that episode. Build a Space, up there in the top corner. Scan that QR code. That is a company putting together this, the Biz Growth Collective. That is the next LinkedIn. We are broadcasting the show right now. A good number of people listening and watching in the 24/7 chat room, networking room. Actually, the graphic of it looks like the student union room at a college that has a stage on it. Really good outfit, really good setup. Scan or go to bizgrowthcollective.com or builda.space to learn more. All right, for the last segment of today, as I deal with allergies and rub my very itchy eyes, Putin and the snub. I've been saying this too. The snub that he gave, apparently, to the peace talks. He does not want peace. He wants Ukraine. And up next, before we get going, somebody that knows a lot more about this than me is going to say that same thing.
Russian and Ukrainian officials are set to hold peace talks in Turkey, but the leaders of those countries are not expected to attend. The meeting was supposed to happen Thursday, but the head of the Russian delegation says talks have been pushed to Friday morning. Russian President Vladimir Putin declined to go. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said he would only attend if Putin was present. President Trump is leaving the door open for a possible appearance, but told reporters he has less incentive if Putin isn't there.
Nothing's going to happen until Putin and I get together, okay? And obviously he wasn't going to go. He was going to go, but he thought I was going to go. He wasn't going if I wasn't there. And I don't believe anything's going to happen, whether you like it or not, until he and I get together.
Ryan Taylor joins us now. He's the director of the Moynihan Institute of Global Affairs at Syracuse University. So can you get us into the strategy here of what each leader is doing and where this leaves us?
Sure. I think it's worth going back to about a week ago. At that point, the Trump administration had been pushing for a 30-day ceasefire. Ukraine had agreed to it, and the Europeans had agreed to it, and they were pushing Putin to agree to it. And at that point, he sort of changed the subject and said, let's go to negotiations in Turkey. And President Trump encouraged the Ukrainians to agree, so President Zelensky agreed. But I don't think Vladimir Putin really had any intention of ever showing up in Turkey. It was his attempt to change the narrative and to not be the one left taking the blame for not agreeing to the ceasefire. So it's a tactic on his part, but it wasn't an indication of a sincere desire to have detailed peace negotiations with the Ukrainians.
So are you expecting anything to come out of these talks in Turkey if they happen?
Not really. I mean, the two delegations on both sides are somewhat low level. There aren't the top officials there for the most part. It's possible they'll come to some technical agreements about some small issues. It may be that they can agree to another exchange of prisoners between the two sides, but I don't think they're going to make real progress either in bringing about a ceasefire or bringing the war closer to an end.
President Trump has expressed frustration on both sides and members of his administration, and he has said they're going to give up talks soon if progress isn't made. Do you get a sense that that's a tactic or a real threat? And if the U.S. does decide to retreat from negotiations, do you think that could happen soon?
Well, of course, as people will remember, President Trump originally had said he could solve this in 24 hours. We're well past 100 days at this point, and various administration officials have expressed a bit of frustration. I don't think we're really that much closer to a deal. The root problem here is that Putin doesn't want a deal. He wants victory, which to him means the subjugation of Ukraine. And the Ukrainians and President Zelensky want to maintain their independence and have some guarantees about their security going forward. So we're still very far apart. And I think the real question is, if the U.S. walks away, what does walk away mean? Does it mean that the U.S. stops providing military and intelligence assistance to Ukraine? Does it mean it tries to do a separate deal with Russia about lifting sanctions? Because if that's what walking away means, Putin will certainly welcome a U.S. walkaway that leaves them with no consequences and opens the door to a reversal of sanctions or other steps by the U.S.
Important point. Brian Taylor, thank you.
Yeah. So I've been saying he doesn't want to do anything with peace until he owns the Ukraine. That simple. I mean, look at what happened with Crimea. He was supposed to stop after Crimea, and everybody said, okay, we can give up Crimea, even though Ukraine didn't want that either, because he's going to stop there, and he's a man of his word. How'd that work out for us? There's no ending this until he gets ended. And that is perhaps the second fall of the Soviet Union. It's just, that's the only way to deal with somebody like this. And Trump saw it himself. He tried to be a bully. He's clearly a little bit more in favor of, where did he go? In favor of helping out Ukraine. I don't know. What do you think?
I think that it's not a good look that, okay. Now some more backstory.
Okay.
From what I understand, this wasn't like a scheduled meeting or whatever. This was like a Trump pulling an audible saying like, hey, I happen to be here. Let's all meet there and discuss this and get this over with. So Putin come meet us. And Putin, and so you have this kind of like power play of like, this wasn't like even scheduled, dude. Like, you think I'm just gonna drop everything I'm doing and going over to meet you to discuss this peace thing? And so now that Putin didn't do it, everybody's just like, well, see, he doesn't want peace. So at the same time, it's like from what I understand, of course, I could be misremembering this. This wasn't a scheduled peace talk or summit or anything where he just didn't show up. It was, I happen to be here. We can do this, and I'll fly over there if you show up.
Well, true. But I mean, what else do you got going on?
Running a country. I mean, probably a lot.
Yeah, but with how he runs a country, I'm sure there's enough people that are fearful enough of him to keep things managed and running.
Look, could he drop everything and go there? Of course he could. But
yes.
at the same time, just politically, why would you? Like, why would you put yourself in that situation where now Donnie is just telling you what to do and where to be? Is like that. I wouldn't. That just makes no sense.
Because after all, he doesn't want peace in the first place. You think he wants to stop where he's at now?
I think that I'm just talking about this. I'm just talking about this specific situation. This specific situation does not set up the best background for a peace talk.
No, I understand. So I'm having to deal with a text message. I understand that this was a little bit last minute, and a little. Hey, you know what? You could have given me a bit better heads up. You knew damn well you were going to the Middle East a lot longer than this. But still, if he really wants peace, even send a higher level, your Minister of Foreign Affairs and Trade, or whatever they call it in Russia, your equivalent to the Secretary of State, and say, yeah, go see what you can strike up and see what we can do. Here's what we want. Obviously, they'll have that conversation before the lackey leaves for Turkey, if Putin doesn't go himself. But I mean, what else does he really have going on? Because let's be clear about something else too. He's not doing well in Ukraine. Because while Trump said that he could have this done in 24 hours, Putin expected to have a victory a long time ago. How many troops from North Korea came in to save his ass, who are now dead? They didn't do so hot. So some level of peace or some sort of break might not be a bad idea. And yet he's going to play this card? I think it's another opportunity to call Donald Trump's bluff. That's all. And in this case, Putin might have won. Because he doesn't have he can still continue to move forward.
Did you ever watch Succession?
I don't have time to watch stuff like that.
All right. Well, I'm sorry. You're just so busy to watch TV. Or I love when you say, "Hey, did you watch this?" Like, I can't have time to watch stuff like that.
No, look at
I don't have time to do that
have an
stuff.
idea how long I'm going to be sitting in this chair?
Well, you could just
Friday.
say, "No, I didn't watch it. I don't have time to watch trivial stuff like
don't.
that. I do important things."
I do.
So I'm gonna tell you about my trivial time wasting activity of watching Succession really quick. So while I was doing nothing with my life, I was sitting down and watching Succession. But there's this part of Succession where the Roys owned a media conglomerate, right? And I think they were trying to sell it to somebody. They're trying to sell it to somebody and trying to work out a deal. And one of the Roys, the kids who dad owns the company, but they're going there and try to work out this deal, kept on being like baited, like pushed around a little bit in this whole deal. Like the buyers would show up and they're like, "Hey, can you meet us here?" And he'd be like, "Oh, okay." So you'd have to drop everything and run over there, and then nothing got done. And then, "Oh, hey, we're having to be in town here," and he would drop everything and run over there. And one time, and then finally, I think the last straw, he was said, "Hey, I only show up if the owner and the whatchamacallit are there to do the deal. We'll ink the deal right now." And he showed up and they weren't there. And he was just like, "No, I'm done with this." And what it looks like they're trying to say is like the urgency was on the seller of this company, not the buyer, and the buyer was jerking him around to try to get the best deal. And so the whole thing was just not conducive to a very honest conversation about what is the company worth, or what is everything, how can we work out the best deal for everybody. This is what it sounds like. This is what it sounds like. And then and like I said, I don't know if Putin is for peace. I honestly think he wants Ukraine, and maybe even more. I don't know. I don't really know. But what I will say is this way of doing it was obviously going to fail.
Yeah. What do you think about his military strength? Do you think he's doing well there?
I don't know. I don't know. I'm not going to speculate. I don't know. I don't know. If you ask if you ask if you ask one side, they're going to say Putin's destroying Ukraine, blah blah. There's 2-1 deaths from Ukraine, and then they're like, well, they should just give up and let's have peace. And if you talk to people who support Ukraine, they're like, well, Putin's not even doing well, and blah blah blah. And it's just like I don't really know, dude. I don't really know, nor do I care. It should be over. It should have been over a long time ago. I don't care who's doing better. Hundreds of thousands of men have died on both sides. So if it was 400,000 here and $300,000 here, Russia's doing better, or Ukraine's doing better. Like that's just a horrible, stupid statistic. I don't know who's doing better. It's shit. It's a shit sandwich, and it has to end.
Well, Europe's going to try to do what they can. According to the Kyiv Independent, the EU is going to adopt Russian sanctions on May 20th.
Oh wow! Look at them finally coming out and doing something. Look at that! Look at those little guys. Look at you little guys having a little meeting and doing a little thing.
Yeah, really. Yeah, I kind of get that. All right. Well, I've got to wrap up. I've got to let you go because I've also got to kind of end this not quite early, but I've got to end the video part because I got to replay it in the next hour. So I'm going to ramble for like the next 10 minutes or so.
All righty. Well, it was good talking to you, Jurgs, and we'll see you next Friday.
As always. Yeah. Don't forget to check out, I got to give you a plug quick while you're still here before you beat feet. Don't forget to check out that's that one. And then here's this, Daily Crypto News. For more info, go to dailycryptonews.net or scan the QR code on your screen for those of you watching. And then also you can write to Matt at dailycryptonews.net. All right, my man. I will see you again next week. All right.
Peace, man. Talk to you. Thanks, brother.
Thanks, bud. All right, Matt Deemer, host of Daily Crypto News. The rest of all the stuff, don't forget about Joseph Soul, The Broken Mirror of Memories, Iraq and Other Tales. He'll also be on Coast to Coast AM on the 29th of May. Maybe if I can find another window here. He just messaged me that recently, so it's got to be somewhere close. That one. There it is. Cool. Here it is. Confirmed slot changed 10 to 12 p.m. PST. Okay, so that's 10 a.m. All right. So let's edit that. 10 a.m. 29th of May, Coast to Coast AM, 10 a.m. Pacific. That's right as I'm done. So I can switch from the show to that. I'll be able to catch it. That's awesome. Coast to Coast AM, Joseph Soul, and his book, The Broken Mirror of Memories, Iraq and Other Tales. Oh, I didn't save it. So there you go. There it is on the screen, 10 a.m. Caroline Williams, the CEO of Happy Health, will be here. We had to post. She was going to be here this coming Monday. That is postponed indefinitely. There's some things she's doing with our legal team, and she wants to get that squared away before coming here, which is an obvious choice. So we will see her as soon as we can. Go to Sea Ranch Civic Association here in Pasco area, Florida. Anybody on the Nature Coast or northern Tampa Bay, go to mysrca.com. Sign up today. Really good group. If you are pretty handy, we're redoing a lot of things in the clubhouse, so we could use help there. I know I might be helping drywall or paint or something this coming weekend. Capital Switchboard, Call your senators, call your congressmen, tell them well done for voting no against this stupid ass big beautiful bill. Tell them about your grandparents and whoever else it might be that need Medicaid, among other things. Jane Stahl can be reached by writing Jane E. Stahl, Stahl, at Comcast at Comcast.net. She's also the manager of Studio B in Boyertown, Pennsylvania. StudioBBB.org is the site. Check that out there. The Bear Fever exhibit is up right now. All the artists, celebrating all the artists who have at one point or another contributed to Bear Fever. She's also the co-editor of the Boyertown Area Expression. That's our town's digital newspaper. Go to BoyertownAreaExpression.town.news, managed by Jane and Leslie Misko. Matt, again, is Matt at dailycryptonews.net. You can get us all by writing news, NEWZ, at Yergz, YERGZ.com. For video, bookmark yergz.com. Again, that's YERGZ.com. And for 24/7 audio, go to Yergz Radio by going to yergz.radio. YergzRadio.com still works as well, but we like this one because our name is our address. Same thing with Mastiff Media. Go to mastiff.media for more show notes and other info and anything else you want to know about Yergz Radio, Rainbow Radio, and Right Talk Radio, and our friends at the Dare Media Group. Sportcat's Daily Gazette will be canceled for today again. I got some other episodes that he sent me, but what I'm going to do is I'm just going to repurpose today's episode of Up the Middle and replay that for the next 2 hours. And then come back Monday. Hopefully things will be in better shape for him. I'm not able, I tried earlier this week to cover his 2 hours as well. I just got too much, Matt's goofing on me, but seriously, I've got too much going on here. I can't do it. I've got editing of this episode to do to repurpose into the shorter podcast episodes. And I've got some other stuff for the station that I just can't. And it's kind of that's that screen there. I'm sharing screens in one of these rooms, and instead of sharing the one you're seeing, I have another screen that I share, and I just don't have anything on that screen, so it's showing my empty desktop. But we're done with that anyway. So, and we're done with this too. This has been Up the Middle. We're here weekdays, Monday through Friday, 11 a.m. Eastern. If you're somewhere in the world, we recommend going to World Time Buddy, typing in New York City, Washington, D.C., Tampa, whatever it is, something on the East Coast of the United States, and then typing in wherever it is you are so you can figure out the time difference. We are 11 a.m. Eastern. Right now, it's almost 1 o'clock, almost 10 a.m. in Las Vegas, 5:58 p.m. in London, 18:58 in Berlin, Rome, 19:58 in Tel Aviv, Jerusalem, Kyiv, and Moscow, 12:58 a.m. in Perth, Australia, 1:59 a.m. in Tokyo, and 2:59 a.m. in Melbourne, Sydney, Canberra, and what's the other one? There's another one there. Brisbane. There we go. All right, gang. That's it. I'm out of here. Have a great weekend. Replay of the past 2 hours is up next on Yergz Radio, Rainbow Radio, Right Talk Radio, Radio X, Radio Live, and wherever you get the Mastiff Media Network. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Thanks for getting off the porch and running with the big dogs.